Oh, her warning.
Yeah, this is a girl who says that man
well,
has trouble.
This did happen to me, and it was a he. And I went right ahead and married the guy, and it was Garrett.
Lucille Ball was celebrated by the world as the fiery-haired genius who reshaped television, built Desilu Studios from the ground up, and became one of Hollywood's sharpest business minds. But behind the laughter and applause, power gave her something far more unsettling, a front-row seat to the darkest personalities in show business. Long before her death, Lucy confessed to close friends that 7 actresses she had encountered were not just difficult, they were truly evil, not in the scripted villain roles they played on screen, but in the quiet, unguarded moments when fame removed all consequences. And among all the names she whispered, no one chilled her more deeply than Joan Crawford. To the public, Crawford was a shimmering icon of old Hollywood glamour carved into diamonds, poise sculpted into perfection. But to Lucille Ball, she was something entirely different, a woman who wore elegance like armor, hiding a heart she described as nothing but ice. Their most disturbing clash erupted during Crawford's 1971 guest appearance on Here's Lucy. From the second Crawford entered the studio, Lucy sensed the atmosphere tighten. Crawford didn't just request comfort, she dictated it. The temperature had to remain exactly 68 degrees. Her chair had to be angled at a mathematically precise tilt. The lighting crew was forced to adjust bulbs for nearly an hour so the shadows would flatter the sharp lines of her face. Lucy stayed calm, she'd dealt with demanding stars before, but what came next crossed a line she could never forget. A young wardrobe assistant, barely 22 and visibly nervous, handed Crawford a costume with the faintest wrinkle. Instead of offering correction, Crawford unleashed cruelty with surgical precision. Witnesses said she leaned in and whispered with venom, "You're a useless little nothing. Toilets would be lucky to have you." The girl burst into tears and ran off the set. Crawford, completely unfazed, ordered Lucy to fire her immediately. Lucille refused. And in that refusal, their silent war began. On camera, Crawford transformed like magic, warm, sparkling, gracious, the perfect Hollywood goddess. But the instant the red recording light clicked off, she froze again, stiff and hollow, like a mannequin slipping back onto a store display. Lucille later confided to a friend, "I've worked with department store mannequins who felt more human." To her, it wasn't an insult, it was a diagnosis. She believed some people didn't merely hide behind glamour, they masqueraded as human beings entirely. And to Lucy, nothing revealed a person's true soul more clearly than how they treated those with no power at all, and in Lucille Ball's eyes, Joan Crawford failed that test completely. No matter how many decades passed, no matter how many Hollywood legends rose and fell, Crawford remained, until Lucille's final days, the one woman she considered truly, unmistakably evil. Cold not because life had hardened her, but because cruelty was her comfort zone. And after Crawford came another name that weighed heavily on Lucille's heart, though in a very different way. Judy Garland, the beautiful chaos. Lucille Ball could never forgive. Lucille never disguised her feelings when Judy Garland's name entered a conversation. The shift on her face wasn't anger, nor was it hatred, it was something more painful, a tired, wounded sadness. Judy's darkness didn't come from malice. It came from heartbreak, from pressure, from demons that clung to her until they hollowed her out. But chaos, no matter how tragic its source, still destroys. And Lucille had watched Judy's chaos swallow entire rooms of hard-working people. They had known each other since their early MGM years. Lucille admired Judy's brilliance, her raw voice, her trembling vulnerability. She knew Judy had suffered in ways most stars never admitted. But she also saw the wreckage Judy left behind, ruined shooting schedules, exhausted crews, producers begging for miracles that never came. Lucy once confided, Judy was magic, but magic that burned the stage down. One story haunted her for decades. A TV director told Lucille about a morning shoot in the early 70s. Judy was scheduled for 5 a.m. The entire crew, makeup, grips, lighting, camera operators, waited hour after painful hour. She arrived at 2 p.m., glowing, charming, apologizing like an angel. She performed 30 minutes of pure perfection, breathtaking enough to forgive almost anything. Then she sighed, claimed she was too tired, and walked off the set. The next day, 3 crew members were fired because the production had gone wildly over budget. Lucille's anger had nothing to do with jealousy or moral superiority. It came from survival, her own survival. In a brutal industry that chewed up women and spat them out, Lucy stayed alive by being relentless, disciplined, and reliable. Watching Judy waste her brilliance while the innocent paid the price felt like betrayal of the craft they both loved. At a private dinner once, Lucy said sharply, "Talent doesn't excuse destruction." And with Judy, someone always got destroyed. She never confronted Judy directly. Lucille Ball was too compassionate for that, but she quietly avoided ever working with her again. When Garland died in 1969, Lucille mourned the loss of the star, the woman, the voice. But she did not mourn the storm she brought everywhere she went. Judy wasn't evil by nature, Lucy said, yet the damage she caused was undeniable, unforgettable, and impossible to excuse. Ava Gardner, the beauty Lucille Ball called savage behind the skin. What kind of woman could make Lucille Ball, a woman who worked with every personality Hollywood could invent, say that someone enjoyed hurting people? Only one, Ava Gardner. With Ava, the danger wasn't chaos. It wasn't tragedy. It was something far more deliberate. This was beauty sharpened into a weapon. Their tension didn't begin with a misunderstanding or rumor. It began with cruelty, targeted, intentional, and executed with a smile. Lucille witnessed it herself one afternoon in the mid-1960s at MGM during a wardrobe fitting. A young assistant approached Ava, hands shaking slightly, holding a freshly steamed dress. A tiny oversteamed patch had softened a seam. A flaw most actresses wouldn't even notice. Ava noticed. Slowly. Coldly. She stared at the girl like a predator sizing out prey, then she said, in a low, slicing voice, "Don't bother fixing it. You can't fix incompetence with more incompetence." The girl froze, humiliated, cheeks burning. Lucille, watching from across the room, felt something inside her twist. This wasn't diva behavior or frustration. This was joy, pleasure, in domination. Later, Lucy whispered to a friend, Ava didn't make mistakes. She made victims. The feud deepened weeks later at a high-end Hollywood cocktail party. Someone casually mentioned Lucille's name in conversation. Ava smirked, lifted her drink, and said loudly enough for a dozen people to hear, "Oh, the washed-up clown. She's still working?" The room fell silent. Some guests gasped. Ava laughed. The cruelty was not accidental, it was sharpened, deliberate, gleeful. And Lucille knew why Ava got away with it. People worshipped her beauty. They forgave her sins because her face distracted them from the venom. Lucille never forgave, never forgot, and never pretended otherwise. She told confidants for years, if she hadn't been beautiful, no one would have tolerated who she really was. They never reconciled. Ava's beauty aged into legend. But for Lucy, every magazine cover, every documentary, every casual mention of her name brought back the same bitter memory. Until her final years, whenever Ava Gardner appeared on TV or in print, Lucille would mutter the same quiet sentence under her breath, words she never dared say publicly, but never once softened privately. But if you want, I can continue with the next actresses Lucille Ball exposed and expand them in the same powerful style. People had no idea what Bette Davis truly was behind the famous face, the fierce stare, the clipped voice, the legendary performances. But Lucille Ball did. To the world, Bette Davis was pure talent carved into human form. To Lucille, she was something far darker, a woman who, in her words, cut people for sport. Everyone in Hollywood admired Bette's acting. Everyone except Lucille Ball, who once asked quietly at a private dinner, "Why does she enjoy hurting people so much?" Lucille didn't need years to decode her feelings. Her discomfort with Bette was immediate, sharp, and unforgettable. Their worst encounter unfolded at a glamorous industry dinner in the mid-1960s. Lucille was a few tables away when a young, nervous waiter accidentally delivered the wrong wine to Bette Davis. It was a simple mistake, fixable in seconds. But Bette seized it as an opportunity. She snapped the label toward him and growled, "Do you even know how to read? Or is that beyond you?" The room fell silent. The boy apologized over and over, his voice trembling, but Bette continued, savoring the humiliation like a performance meant for an audience of one. Herself, Lucille watched in stunned disgust. This wasn't diva attitude. This wasn't stress. This was enjoyment, deliberate cruelty. Later that night, Bette spotted Lucy across the room and lifted her glass in mocking cheerfulness, the kind of forced toast used by people who believe they're untouchable. Lucille didn't smile back. She had seen everything she needed to see. To a close friend that night, Lucille said, Crawford was cold. But Bette enjoyed inflicting the wound. And for Lucille, that was the unforgivable sin. She respected greatness relentlessly. But she despised those who used their power not to inspire, not to lift, but to crush people simply trying to earn a living. Lucille's rule was simple: greatness should protect people, not break them. Bette and Lucille were never friends. They shared the same city, the same era, the same studios, the same award shows, and stayed apart like oil and water. Even decades later, when producers begged Lucille to appear beside Bette in tributes and retrospectives, she refused every time. She didn't pretend. She didn't rewrite history. She simply avoided the woman she believed thrived on humiliation. Zsa Zsa Gábor, the woman Lucille Ball said was fake down to the bone. When Zsa Zsa Gábor's name came up, Lucille Ball didn't groan or sigh. She laughed one sharp, humorless laugh that said everything. Lucille didn't fear Zsa Zsa. She didn't envy her beauty, her fame, or her extravagant lifestyle. What she hated, truly hated, was the fraudulence. To Lucille, Zsa Zsa wasn't just dramatic. She wasn't just spoiled. She was a walking stage play, a woman who weaponized charm while treating real people like disposable furniture. Lucy believed that acting belonged on film, not in a person's soul. Her disgust began at a lavish charity gala in the late 1960s. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Zsa Zsa glided in wearing diamonds heavy enough to strain her neck and furs that swept the floor like a royal train. She smiled like a queen greeting her subjects. But the second the photographers drifted away, the transformation was instant. The smile vanished, the warmth evaporated, and the real Zsa Zsa emerged. A polite volunteer stepped forward and gently guided her toward a seating area. Zsa Zsa didn't thank her. She didn't acknowledge her. She simply snapped, with icy precision, "I don't sit with peasants." The entire table froze. Lucille, watching from across the room, felt anger rise behind her ribs. Charity events were meant to uplift, to help, to acknowledge those who gave their time, not to insult them. To Lucy, this was beyond rudeness. This was a glimpse into a person who believed kindness was beneath her, and in that moment, Lucille Ball decided, Zsa Zsa Gábor wasn't just fake for cameras. She was fake to her core, down to the bone. Lucille Ball saw it clearly from across the room, and for her, that one sentence, "I don't sit with peasants," revealed everything about who Zsa Zsa Gábor truly was when the cameras weren't looking. But the worst moment of the night came only minutes later. A young volunteer, barely 20, hopeful, eager to be helpful, accidentally brushed the edge of Zsa Zsa's fur coat while trying to guide guests toward the charity auction table. It was the kind of harmless mistake anyone could make, something most stars would ignore or laugh off. But not Zsa Zsa. Instead of gently correcting the girl, Zsa Zsa leaned in close, her diamond earrings trembling with the movement, and whispered in a syrupy, sweet tone that sent a chill through the volunteer's body, "Sweetheart, you touch my coat again, and I'll make sure you never work an event in this town again." She delivered the threat with a smile so warm it was terrifying, like a serpent disguised as silk. The volunteer froze, her eyes watering, and stepped away quietly, trying not to draw attention. But Lucille had seen the entire exchange, and the cruelty hit her like a stone to the chest. Later that night, after the event had ended and the crowd dispersed, Lucille vented in a whisper to a trusted colleague. "Nothing about her is real," she said with a bitterness she rarely allowed herself. "Not the accent, not the elegance, not even the kindness. It's all performance." To Lucille, fake kindness was more dangerous than open cruelty. Open cruelty at least told the truth. You knew where you stood. But fake kindness? That was poison disguised as perfume, sweet, intoxicating, and deadly to anyone who didn't recognize it. A fake person could disarm people. A fake person could fool the public, fool the press, fool entire industries. And Zsa Zsa, in Lucille's eyes, had made a career out of fooling everyone. Zsa Zsa never changed. Even decades later, when headlines erupted in 1989 with the story of her slapping a Beverly Hills police officer during a traffic stop, Lucille wasn't shocked. She wasn't even mildly surprised. She simply shook her head and said to a friend, "There she is. That's the real one." To Lucille, the incident wasn't scandalous, it was confirmation. Proof that beneath the glamour, beneath the charm, beneath the carefully crafted persona, Zsa Zsa was the same person she had always been, someone who believed the world existed to serve her. Lucille never forgave her. Not because of one insult, or one moment, or one event. But because Zsa Zsa represented a kind of danger Lucille detested more than anything, the kind of evil that smiles while it stabs. The kind that pretends to be gracious while quietly pushing someone off the edge. The kind that fools people until it's too late. And now that you've heard the 7 names Lucille Ball revealed, the 7 actresses she privately said were cold, cruel, chaotic, or fake, you have a front row seat to the truths Hollywood never dared to publish. Which one shocked you the most? Was it the icy terror of Joan Crawford, the destructive whirlwind of Judy Garland, the venom-laced beauty of Ava Gardner, the predatory delight of Bette Davis, or the diamond-coated fraudulence of Zsa Zsa Gábor? Or is it simply the realization that behind the glittering world of classic Hollywood, darkness walked the same halls as legends? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Hollywood still hides people like this today? Do you believe the glamour of fame still protects cruelty the way it did back then? Your opinion might surprise others, and if you want more untold stories from the golden age of Hollywood, the secrets the studios buried, rivalries the tabloids softened, truths whispered but never printed, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next reveal. The real Hollywood wasn't written in scripts. It was written in shadows. And there are so many more stories left to uncover.